Today I'm going to show you guys everything I ate today along with the recipes, so let me know if you try any of these out, and let's go ahead and get started. So one of my recent updates is that I don't really do a carb in the morning except for fruit. And I found that sticking to higher protein, higher fat type breakfast has just been making my workouts way more sustainable, and I feel like the carb from the fruit is just kind of enough and I get that hydration. So I like to start off with eggs and a smoothie, and I use non-fat Greek yogurt because it's high in protein, low in fat. And yes, y'all, I still use the immersion blender for my smoothie. I was getting bullied for that in a previous video, but it's like I have a blender from my old apartment at my parents' house and I always mean to get it, but I just haven't yet. And then it's like, I don't want to buy a new one if I have one, so I'm just like doing this classic predicament. But anyway, so for my eggs, I typically will do 3 eggs, and I like to typically do a scramble. Sometimes I switch it up, but it's a good way to also use any veggies I have. So today we're doing some onions and jalapenos, and then I also like to do some avocado with that. And this is just super satisfying and not too heavy, but still sustains me because I'll typically work out after this. So just a little side note, we're making a sofrito, which is kind of a seasoning base. Yeah, like you could use it as a marinade or as like a base when you're making something, as you will see in the next couple dishes. So I just wanted to show y'all how I make it. I take my mini food processor and I put some bell pepper, onion, garlic, cilantro, lime juice, and white vinegar. So there's no salt, there's no actual seasonings, like dry seasonings in there. There's a lot of different variations on how you can do this, but this is just how I do it. And again, it kind of depends on what I have on hand. But this is great to just keep in the fridge and use as needed. So for lunch today, I had some ground beef with white rice, plantains, and cucumber. And this is a great way to meal prep and get your, macros in after a workout. So I love this ground beef. It's been like one of my favorites recently. You can use whatever meat you want. You could use a plant-based meat if you want. But I'm just gonna start by putting some bell peppers and onion in a pan, adding about a tablespoon or so, like 2 tablespoons of sofrito, and letting that cook. Then I'm gonna add adobo, onion powder, garlic powder, oregano, and some black pepper, and just kind of wait for everything to get soft. Then I'm going to go ahead and add my ground beef. I also added about a tablespoon of tomato paste, which this really makes it. Like I did it without the tomato paste last week, y'all, and it was not as good. Like the tomato paste is key. It's kind of like a picadillo, but there's no potato or anything in it, it's just the meat. And then I also added a sazon packet once the meat was in there. I don't know why I do it like that. It just like feels right. And some more what's that the only time I added black pepper? I don't know. But then we're also gonna do some plantain because I had some leftover white rice, but like not really enough. And who doesn't love a plantain, So this is what I'm eating for lunch. I probably will eat the rest of the plantain. I didn't realize how little leftover white rice I had left, but normally I would do about this amount. So this is super easy because I will pre-make this ground beef, and I will normally have leftover rice in the fridge, and then cutting up the cucumber or adding some mixed grains is super simple, and this is just a super flavorful, delicious, oh my god, great macros, especially for after the gym lunch / post-workout meal. I also have a decaf green tea. I usually have peppermint, but I'm switching things up today because the green tea sounds really good. So I'm gonna eat and then shower and get ready to record a podcast actually. Super delish and just so easy to meal prep. If you make the ground meat earlier in the week, you can have it for quite a few meals, and it's just so easy to heat up, and you get your macros and you can season it how you like. I go back and forth, on whether or not I have a second coffee of the day. I did have a coffee in the morning. I don't know why I forgot to film it, but y'all should know me by now. And then I had this protein bar. It was not so good. So for the dinner, y'all have been asking me how I make the chicken and how I make the beans. So we're gonna start out by, this is also how I make my bone broth, just putting any vegetable scraps in the pot. And then when you buy a whole chicken, it's gonna come with this little bag that has the organs, which, you know, if you wanna be grossed out, but they're really good for you. And then I'm cleaning the chicken with limes and white vinegar, and you wanna clean the sink out before you do this. And then we're going to take out the breastbone and put that breastbone in the stock pot. And this just, it's called spatchcocking if you don't know, but it just helps the chicken to cook more evenly. Then we are disinfecting our arena. We're using bleach, we're using disinfectant, you know, you need that to be clean. Also, I'm gonna roast this in the cast iron. That's the beauty of a cast iron. It's not ideal. I mean, it honestly worked perfectly, so I'm not even mad, like, don't even judge me. But I would definitely recommend getting a cast iron if you're new to cooking, or if you're moving out alone, or you just are wondering where do I start, because it's so multi-purpose. So I'm just adding all the classic seasonings and that sofrito, and we're doing this to the front and back. And also note that I am doing this in the morning before I'm gonna cook it later in the evening. So it has a chance to marinate all day, and all those seasonings can really, you know, penetrate. So I'm just gonna cover it with some plastic wrap and put it in the fridge. And then this is later at night. We are going to preheat the rinky-dink oven to about 400. It's kind of hard to tell with these. And I like to set a timer for 50 minutes and then check it. Typically it needs about 10-15 minutes longer, and you want the internal temperature to get to 150. So would definitely recommend a thermometer. To make the beans, we're gonna start out by doing some onion and bell pepper and garlic, just whole, you know, like very roughly cut in a pot with some oil. Add your sofrito. I keep meaning to say it, but it's like going so quickly. But as you can tell, a lot of my, like, what I eat is very Latin American inspired, Caribbean inspired. And ever since moving to New York, you know, I just have such a taste for that. It's so cool to see, you know, just the influence that these cultures have. And it's just so different than the West Coast where I grew up, you know? So I just remember the first time coming to New York, trying Dominican food for the first time. And I was like, oh my God, this is so good and just so different. But I just feel like there's so many healthy, good recipes, and it's so flavorful. And yeah, it's just amazing to learn how to cook these recipes, because then I can just make it. I can make it for my family on the West Coast. You know, it's like that flavor. I will link a few of my favorite, you know, Dominican chefs and just like chefs period that I watch below, because that's how I learn a lot. Once that internal temp hits 150, you're gonna take it out and let it rest for, like, honestly, I do like 20 minutes TBH. And look how moist it is on the inside, cooked perfectly, so good. And I, you know, will just eat this throughout the week, like, period. It's so flavorful. And then we did our rice, our beans. The beans are definitely better like the day after, a couple days after, when the flavor really sets in. And then the last thing I had was some more non-fat Greek yogurt with some frozen berries, raw honey, and a sleepy time tea. So I hope you guys enjoyed this what I eat in a day. Let me know if you try out any of these recipes down below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye everyone.